Love blinds even the sharpest minds, and I had been no exception. For years, I believed Emily and I shared something unbreakable, an unspoken promise of loyalty. But the moment I saw her grinning as she deleted texts, a dagger of doubt lodged itself deep inside me. Something was wrong. It started small, barely noticeable. A shift in the way she dressed, more effort, more perfume. Gym visits, despite never caring for exercise before. Late nights at work, despite her firm's usual 9 to 5 schedule. Then came the guarded phone, the flicker of panic when I walked into the room mid-text, the fake smiles that never quite reached her eyes. I should have confronted her. I should have asked. Instead, I watched, observed, took mental notes of every lie she fed me. One night, she lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I sat beside her, pretending to focus on the television while my eyes flicked to her screen. She chuckled at something before swiftly erasing a message. A single, knowing smirk played on her lips as her fingers worked with casual precision. A chill slithered down my spine. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Later that night, while she showered, I took my chance. Her phone, carelessly left on the nightstand, was unlocked. My heart pounded as I scrolled through her messages, fingers trembling with dread. Most chats were ordinary, work colleagues, family, friends. But then there was one labeled Liam. No last name. Just that. I hesitated before clicking. A thread of messages unraveled before me, each one sharper than the last. Liam, God, I can still taste you from last night. Emily, shoo, you'll get me in trouble, face blowing a kiss. Liam, wish I could sneak you away for the weekend. Just you, me, no distractions. Emily, soon, babe. Just be patient. He suspects nothing. My stomach lurched. The walls of my world cracked. The woman I built my life with, the one who vowed to be mine, was giving herself to someone else. Not just emotionally. Physically. Entirely. Footsteps echoed from the bathroom. My hands scrambled to exit the messages, placing the phone exactly where it had been. Emily emerged, wrapped in a towel, skin glistening with moisture. "Why do you look so serious?" she asked, rubbing her hair with another towel. Forcing a smile, I shrugged. "Just tired." She climbed into bed beside me, curling against my chest as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't just whispered sweet nothings to another man hours ago. Bow rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down. She thought I suspected nothing. She thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. And I would get it, even if it shattered me. Betrayal has a distinct taste, bitter, metallic, like blood on the tongue. I swallowed it down, burying the fury that threatened to consume me. Emily thought she had mastered deception, that I was too blind, too trusting to notice the shift. But she had underestimated me. I needed proof. Not just gut instinct, not just suspicious glances at her phone. I needed something undeniable, something that would leave her no room to lie, no space to manipulate. That's when the idea struck me. Late one night, when she was fast asleep, I retrieved a small voice recorder I had purchased earlier that day. It was sleek, barely the size of a thumb drive, capable of capturing hours of sound. With careful hands, I slipped it into the lining of her favorite handbag, the one she took everywhere. A small risk, but a necessary one. The next morning, I watched her from across the kitchen as she texted furiously, barely paying attention to her coffee. She barely acknowledged me as she grabbed her purse, slinging it over her shoulder. "Got a long day?" I asked, keeping my voice light. She nodded absent-mindedly. "Meeting some client. Might be late." Lies. Every word a carefully placed landmine. "All right," I said, kissing her cheek. She smelled of jasmine and deceit. "Be safe." She left without a second glance. I waited exactly 20 minutes before checking the tracking app on my laptop. Years ago, Emily had insisted on linking our phones for emergencies. She had forgotten. I hadn't. A blue dot blinked on the screen, moving across the city. Not toward her office. Not toward any restaurant she frequented. A hotel. I clenched my fists so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind screamed at me to drive there, to catch them in the act, to rip open the door and drag her out by the wrist. But I resisted. Confrontation now would only lead to more lies, more gaslighting. No, I needed patience. Hours crawled by like years. My pulse pounded as I stared at the blinking dot, imagining every sickening detail of what was happening behind closed doors. By the time she returned home, my stomach was a pit of rage. She walked in, humming softly, tossing her purse onto the couch as if nothing had happened. "How was work?" I asked, forcing my voice to remain steady. She stretched, sighing. "Exhausting. Long meetings, you know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. She kissed me, lips warm, familiar. It took everything in me not to recoil. That night, long after she drifted into peaceful sleep, I retrieved the recorder with trembling fingers. Taking a deep breath, I pressed play. And then my world burned. A hotel room door clicking shut. Emily's voice, soft, teasing. "You really couldn't wait, huh?" A deep male chuckle. "Not when you look like that." Clothes rustling. The unmistakable sound of lips meeting skin. Moans. Her moans. Whispers of my name, mocking, deceitful, followed by gasps that didn't belong to me. The bed creaked. Sheets rustled. More sounds of passion, of bodies moving in sync. Tears burned my eyes, rage mixing with heartbreak in a toxic cocktail. Then, the final dagger. Emily's voice, breathless. "He has no idea. Thinks I'm at work." A pause. Then the man's laughter. "Damn. Poor bastard." The recording ended. I sat in the darkness, gripping the recorder so tightly it nearly cracked. My breath came in ragged heaves, my body trembling with barely contained fury. She had no idea what was coming. She thought she was untouchable. But I was about to teach her a lesson she would never forget. I stared at the ceiling, the weight of the recording pressing against my chest like a cinder block. Sleep wasn't an option. Every whispered word, every breathy moan, every sickening chuckle from the man who wasn't me played in an endless loop inside my head. Emily had destroyed everything we built, but she hadn't realized one thing: I wasn't a fool. I needed a plan. A simple confrontation wouldn't cut it. She'd lie, twist the truth, maybe even cry to make herself the victim. No, I needed a spectacle. A moment that would leave her utterly shattered, just as she had left me. Setting the stage. By morning, I had formulated the perfect revenge. First, I made a few phone calls. One to our closest friends, another to her parent. A small gathering at our house that evening sounded innocent enough. A special announcement, I told them, keeping the details vague. They agreed eagerly. Emily had no idea. She waltzed into the house later that afternoon, glowing with the satisfaction of a woman who believed she was fooling the world. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her purse onto the counter. "How was your day?" I forced a smile. "Great, actually. I planned a little get-together tonight. Just some friends and family." Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh? What's the occasion?" I shrugged. "Just felt like celebrating." She hesitated, but then nodded. "All right. Let me freshen up." Perfect. The moment of truth. As guests arrived, laughter filled the air. Emily flitted around the room, playing the perfect wife, hugging her mother, chatting with my best friend, pouring wine like she wasn't the embodiment of betrayal. She thought she was safe. When the room buzzed with chatter, I cleared my throat. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" The conversations died down as all eyes turned to me. Emily smiled, but there was a flicker of confusion in her expression. "I just wanted to say how grateful I am for all of you," I began, my voice steady. "Especially my wonderful wife, Emily." She beamed, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. "You know, marriage is built on trust," I continued. "And when that trust is broken, well, it's heartbreaking." Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" she asked, a nervous chuckle escaping her lips. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapping the play button on the recording. Her voice filled the room. You really couldn't wait, huh? A murmur spread through the crowd. Her father stiffened. My best friend's jaw clenched. Not when you look like that. The air in the room turned ice-cold. Emily paled, her breath hitching. Turn that off, she snapped, reaching for my phone. I stepped back. No, let's all hear it. I mean, you had no problem saying it the first time, right? The next minute was a nightmare for her. Every gasp, every moan, every single betrayal played for everyone she cared about. Her mother covered her mouth in horror. Her father turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. Our friends stared, some shaking their heads in disgust. Emily looked around, panicked, trapped. It's not, she whirled toward me. You had no right to invade my privacy. I laughed. Privacy? You mean when you were sneaking around behind my back? Deleting texts, smiling like I was some fool? I shook my head. No, Emily. You don't get to play the victim here. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, let's talk about this. Alone. Alone? I repeated, scoffing. Why? So you can lie again? I turned to her parents. Maybe you can explain to them why their perfect daughter threw away her marriage for some cheap thrill. Her mother shook her head in disappointment. Emily, how could you? The silence stretched. She was exposed, humiliated, ruined. And I was finally free. Emily stood frozen in the middle of the room, her face drained of all color. The weight of her actions had finally crashed down on her. Her eyes darted around, searching for support, an escape, anything. But no one came to her defense. Her father's expression was carved from stone, fury flickering in his gaze. Her mother refused to meet her eyes, gripping the edge of her chair like she was holding herself back from screaming. One by one, our friends shifted uncomfortably, avoiding her gaze, disgust shadowing their expressions. The truth had burned through every lie she had built. She turned back to me, tears spilling down her cheeks. Please, she whispered, voice raw with desperation. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but I still love you. I let out a hollow laugh. Love me? I repeated, shaking my head. You loved the thrill. You loved sneaking around. You loved thinking you were getting away with it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. But you never loved me. Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but she knew it was true. And that realization shattered her more than anything else. I took a deep breath, letting the rage, the betrayal, the heartbreak, all of it, drain from my body. I had carried her lies long enough. Now I was done. I want a divorce, I said, voice steady. Her breath hitched. No. Please, There's no coming back from this, Emily. I shook my head. You threw us away the second you walked into that hotel room. Silence. Then a choked sob. I turned away from her, looking at our friends, her parents. Sorry for dragging you all into this, but I needed the truth to be known. Emily's father finally spoke, voice sharp as a blade. We raised you better than this, Emily. She flinched as if the words physically struck her. I grabbed my coat, ready to leave the house that was no longer a home. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. Goodbye, Emily. Then I walked out. A new chapter. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Emily fought at first, trying to win sympathy, but she had no ground to stand on. I had the evidence, and no judge would favor a cheating wife exposed so publicly. She lost everything. The house? Mine. The savings we built together? The prenup ensured she walked away with nothing but regret. Her reputation? Completely shattered. Her friends distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with someone who had been so unapologetically deceitful. Even her family barely spoke to her. And me? I flourished. It took time, but the weight of her betrayal lessened each day. I traveled, reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I had long forgotten. For the first time in years, I felt free. Then, something unexpected happened. I met her. Samantha was everything Emily wasn't. Kind, honest, loyal. We met at a cafe, A simple encounter that turned into long conversations, shared laughter, and a connection I thought I'd never find again. She knew my past, yet she saw me for the man I was, not the man Emily had left behind. And when I finally moved on, standing in front of a woman who truly loved me, I realized something. Emily's betrayal hadn't broken me. It had freed me.